Good day, wherever you are in the world. That might be the morning, afternoon, or in the evening. I'd like to wish you a warm welcome to today's session. This is the third live facilitation session that we'll be running as part of the Digital Literacy Lab for Educators course that many of you are enrolled. And so to date, we've had 2 other live sessions, and you would have received the video recordings for those. Now, today's session, entitled Building Inclusive Content and Pedagogical Structures for Digital Learning, the Experience at Kenyatta University, will be a very enlightening session today to offer insight into how Kenyatta University has navigated drastic and rapid change towards blended learning and the considerations for inclusive pedagogies in the process. I'm joined today by this Digital School for Virtual and Open Learning at Kenyatta University, led by Dr. George Onyango, who is the Dean of the Digital School. He and his team will be walking us through a series of, you could say, experiences that they have as they have pivoted towards blended learning over time at Kenyatta University. My name is Kirk Paris, and I am the Advisor Education at the Commonwealth of Learning, and we are one of the sponsoring organizations for today's session and to the course as well. The other organizations are the Commonwealth Foundation, the 3CL Foundation, the Commonwealth Center for Connected Learning located in Malta, that is a regional center to the Commonwealth of Learning, and DLLE, home of the Critical Literacy Project, led by Dr. Emma Ponsfort, who is with us today, and she will be supporting me in the facilitation and the Q&A for the course, or for the session. On that note, today's session is being recorded, and we will provide a link to the video as we've done with the other 2 live facilitations in a few days' time. We'd encourage all participants to use the chat and the Q&A, specifically if you have questions, to direct those to the question and answer area that you'll see at the toolbar on the Zoom panel. And if general comments, perhaps a greeting in the chat. And we will do our best to address all these questions today. Here's the program that we will be following today. After my remarks, I will invite Dr. George Onyango to introduce himself and his team from Kenyatta University. They will provide us with an overview, as you see here, some background and context, quality assurance issues, challenges that they faced in the pivot to digital learning, and then inclusivity at Kenyatta University. We're fortunate to have Dr. Lubna Masri, a faculty member at Kenyatta University, speak to us about her experiences as a faculty member who also has a visual impairment. I'll stop there and I'll invite Dr. George Onyango, the Dean of the Digital School at Kenyatta University, to introduce himself and his team. Dr. Onyango, over to you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Kirk Paris. Let me take this opportunity to introduce the staff of the Digital School of Virtual and Open Learning, Kenyatta University. My name is Dr. George Onyango, and I'm the Dean Digital School. I also belong to the School of Education, Department of Educational Management, Policy and Curriculum Studies. With me are 4 colleagues who steer various departments in the digital school, and I'll ask them to introduce themselves so that you get to know them. They will be presenting various aspects of digital learning at Kenyatta University. And first, I'll start with Elizabeth, Dr. Monique.
Thank you, Dean, and hello, everyone. I am Dr. Elizabeth Monique. I am an educational psychologist by training, but at the digital school, I am in charge of teaching and quality assurance. I'm happy to see all of you, and I hope we'll be sharing more later. Thank you, and over to you, Dean.
Eric.
Thank you, Dean. Thank you, Gak. Hi, everyone. Eric Masika is my name. By training, chemistry and nanotechnology, but at the digital school, I'm in charge of continuing the education program. Good to see you all.
Sam.
Thank you, Dean, and hello, everyone. My name is Dr. Samuel Mutueleli. I'm in charge of examinations at the Digital School of Virtual and Open Learning. I'm an educational psychologist by training. I'm happy to be part of today's webinar, and I'll be talking to you later about quality assurance mechanisms at the digital school. Over to you, Dean.
Finally, Rhoda.
Thank you very much, Dean. My name is Dr. Rhoda Gitonga, and at the Digital School, I'm in charge of content development, and by training, in information technology management, and my research interest is in enhancing e-learning using artificial intelligence techniques. Thank you.
Thank you, Rhoda. So that is a team that is going to be engaging with you in the course of 1 hour or so. Back to you, Dr. Kirk Paris.
Thank you, Dr. Onyango. So I will be the facilitator for today's session, and we will walk you through the different topic areas. And we're going to start now with a brief background to Kenyatta University. And Dr. George Onyango will speak to this. Before I do, I just also wanted to offer a few remarks of our connectivity, what has brought us here today between the Commonwealth of Learning and Kenyatta University. We've been a longstanding partner with Kenyatta University, having been working on various projects for the past 3 years. And so this was an opportunity to engage in another project with Kenyatta University. So I also wanted to thank Dr. George Onyango and his team for coming today, and we'll get started from there. So I'm going to gesture back to Dr. George Onyango and Dr. Rhoda Gitonga to speak to the background of the digital learning applications at Kenyatta University and some other aspects as well. So back to you, Dr. Onyango.
Thank you very much, Kirk. And I'm going to give you a task background on Kenyatta University and highlight our transition from face-to-face learning to blended learning. Dr. Masika, kindly share the slide. So greetings again to all participants, wherever you are. On behalf of Kenyatta University, I wish to take this opportunity to thank the Commonwealth of Learning for inviting us to share our experiences on digital learning under the auspices of the Digital Literacy Lab for Educators course. And before we share our experiences, I just want to give you a brief background on Kenyatta University. Now, Kenyatta University is one of the 32 public universities in the country. Currently, we have about 72 universities. The rest are private universities and colleges. Now, Kenyatta University became a fully fledged university in 1985. But prior to this, it was a constituent college of Nairobi University, the first fully fledged university established in the country by the Act of Parliament in 1970. And as some of you may be aware, before Nairobi University became a fully fledged university, it was a constituent college of Makerere University, a well-known university in East Africa. Now today, Kenyatta University has a student population of about 70,000 with about 1,250 lecturers. Now, the use of technology in teaching and learning is clearly encapsulated in our strategic plan. And since 2005, we've had 2 10-year strategic plans, starting with the first one from 2005 to 2015, and the current one, which began in 2016, and the plan period will end in 2026. Now, our experience in leveraging on the affordances of technology in terms of teaching and learning is not new. In fact, it dates back to the year 2005, when the university established the Institute of Open Learning to facilitate the delivery of open and distance learning programs through technology-enabled learning dispensation. However, over the years, the university has enhanced the capacity in the use of technology by investing resources in enhancing the ICT infrastructure, in ensuring that the academic staff are equipped with knowledge and skills to facilitate online learning, and to ensure that we establish support systems for faculty and students. Now, in line with our first and second strategic plan, the university has been able to mainstream digital learning, and more specifically blended learning, across all modes of delivery that include open and distance learning, continuing education programs, and face-to-face. In terms of face-to-face, we started with what is referred to as university common units. These are units that are taken by all students or irrespective of the programs they've registered for. However, in 2019, we developed a very comprehensive blended learning policy, which covers the aspects that you can see, the background, the context, the vision and mission, the purpose and scope, the principles. More importantly, the infrastructure and resources required to leverage on technology-enabled learning, the course design in terms of developing interactive content, delivery of blended learning in terms of the various designs of delivering blended learning, and how to assess the programs delivered under the auspices of blended learning, the roles and responsibilities of various key players in the university in terms of implementing blended learning, and the kind of support given to staff in terms of continuous professional capacity building and technical support, and also support to students in terms of leveraging on technology-enabled learning. And finally, quality assurance and evaluation, how we can conform to the expectations of the Commission for University Education with regards to quality. Now, with the emergence of COVID pandemic, late 2019, Kenyatta University, unlike many universities in the region, did not resort to online learning as an emergency measure. We know for a long time, many universities in Kenya and in the region have looked at online learning as an alternative pathway, which was very optional. And many universities were made to resort to online learning as an emergency. Many were ill-prepared, did not have the infrastructure, and therefore issues of quality were raised. But fortunately for Kenyatta University, we have a long history in technology-enabled learning. And therefore, the university was better prepared to continue teaching through the many challenges that have been wrought by COVID-19 through the blended learning approach because of the following. One, as I've said, we had a very comprehensive blended learning policy that spells out clear guidelines on how to leverage on this approach in teaching and learning. Secondly, as I've pointed out, the university has over the years invested in the requisite ICT infrastructure to support blended learning. And third, we have faculty with the requisite skills and knowledge to teach through blended learning approach. And finally, we have also established student support in terms of structures and systems to ensure that students are able to navigate through blended learning with minimal challenges. So this is the brief background that I wanted to give so that you are very clear about where we started from and where we are headed. And at this juncture, maybe I'd like to invite Dr. Roda Gitonga to take us through some of the milestones that we have achieved in terms of leveraging on the affordances of blended learning. Over to you, Dr. Roda Gitonga.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Dr. Onyango. Please, I want to find out whether you can see my screen. Is my screen visible?
Yes, we can see it. We can see it, Dr. Gitonga.
Yes.
So we are, thank you so much. And we are looking at where Kenyatta University was and where we are today. And as Dean has mentioned, we have not started, and we did not start our preparation during COVID. We started much earlier, as Dean has mentioned, from 2005, when there was the implementation of our strategic plan. And all along, we have had a very strong management involvement and management support, all the way from our Vice Chancellor, the Deputy Vice Chancellor, the deans, the chairpersons of departments. They have really supported the engagement and also the implementation of technology-enabled learning. We have also had continuous capacity development, that is training of lecturers, that started way back. And we remember every Wednesday at the Digital School Resource Center, we had a lot of training, but this training was cut off during the COVID-19 break. So we were not able to continue training physically, and we went online, continue with our training. We have also a lot of experience from international and national collaborations. We have collaborations with Partnerships for Enhanced Blended Learning, African Virtual University, AVU, collaborations with Commonwealth of Learning, collaborations with Staff Education Development Association. So we have a lot of experience, and from those collaborations, we have had enhanced our capacity as TOTs, trainers of trainers. We have experience of collaborating with these teams, and our capacity has been enhanced to be able to move to train other lecturers and others and the students at the university. We had practices before, for example, some of our collaborations. I'll give an example of a collaboration that is Partnership of Enhanced Blended Learning, where we had collaborations with CEDA and Commonwealth of Learning, among others. Before then, we had practices where our programs, our online programs, were delivered through, we had print modules. They were placed online as MS Word documents that lacked interactivity, that lacked multimedia. We had resources that I would say lacked what we call constructive alignment of learning assessment, learning activities, learning resources. Those were experiences we gained through collaborations. And what happened after those collaborations and our experience with during COVID, we had, as Dean has mentioned, we had already developed a comprehensive blended learning policy. And therefore, through that, the implementation of that policy, we were able to train a pool of trainers through curriculum designed by SEDA, that is Staff Education Development Association. And we were able to train about over 1,000 lecturers. That is, to be specific, 1,006 out of 1,200 lecturers. That translated to about 84% of the lecturers. And the ones who were not trained, we are still continuing to train them now. And they were being trained on module development. We were training them on uploading the modules online and the art of online facilitation as well as online assessment. So we had a lot of training. We also went on to develop interactive blended learning modules after the training, and we were developing them, or we have been developing them in a phased approach. And so far we have developed about 1,212, translating to about 60% of the total number of modules in semester 1. We have also adopted blended learning across all programs, all modes of delivery in the university, as well as also using what we call quality assurance rubric, which my colleague will talk about later. But we collaborated with the Commonwealth of Learning together with the Commission for University Education, our regulator, to come up with a quality assurance rubric, which we have used to vet our modules and to vet our blended learning courses. And we have a way forward for sustainability. One, we have already a blended learning policy developed that informs the delivery of the programs. We have enhanced our ICT infrastructure to ensure effective delivery of the programs. We have also what we are calling more learner and facilitator support centers. We have the resource centers. We have centers where the lecturers can go and be supported, where the students are going and they are getting support. We have continuing professional development of academic staff. We have developed orientation programs for equipping new students and staff with the requisite skills. More so, we have the university appointing e-learning champions from all schools. We have 18 schools in total, and we have 18 e-learning champions to champion what we are already doing in their schools and departments. When it comes to vetting, quality assurance of our modules, we have about 40 module reviewers at the digital school to ensure standards of the modules from the departments have been verified and are maintained. With that, I say, let's see if there's a question, maybe later. Over to you, Dean.
Thank you, Rhoda, for highlighting the milestones we have achieved through digital learning. And let me just hand over to Dr. Kirk Paris. Over to you, Kirk.
Thank you. Thank you to Dr. Onyango and Dr. Gitonga. I'm going to invite Dr. Samuel Mutwileli, who is the QA lead on the Pebble project, the Partnership for Enhanced and Blended Learning project that our previous colleagues have mentioned, that we're working with, Commonwealth of Learning is working with closely with KU on this. So Dr. Samuel, I'll invite you to offer some remarks on quality assurance.
Thank you, Kirk, and my colleagues, Dean and Dr. Rhoda Gitonga. My name is Dr. Samuel Mutwileli, and I'll be presenting to you about the quality assurance procedures which have been adopted at Kenyatta University Maybe Dr. Gitoga, can you confirm whether you can see my screen?
Yes, I can see your screen, Dr. Mutweleli.
You can see my slides.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. And just from where I'll pick from where Dr. Gitonga has left, and the dean, they have talked about the journey which Kenyatta University, as Kenyatta University, we have traveled up to where we are at the moment, where we are delivering our programs through blended learning. And among other things, the vision of Kenyatta University is to provide quality education and training. And for us to ensure that we meet our vision, then there is need to have a quality assurance mechanism. For Kenyatta University, the Quality Assurance Office is based at the Digital School of Virtue and Open Learning. And as digital school, the university has given us the mandate to make sure that the programs which are delivered under the blended learning mode are quality programs, and to make sure that our programs, whether certificates, diploma, degrees, masters, and so on, whether they meet the quality assurance, whatever is expected, then our department works closely with chairman of departments as well as the head of academic audit section. And to be able to check our quality assurance, like what Dr. Rhoda Gitonga has mentioned, we are following the QA rubric, which was developed by PEBO, led by the Commonwealth of Learning in consultation with participant universities, as well as the Commission for University Education in Kenya. The rubric can be used by institutions, their faculties, individuals who are interested in designing and developing blended learning courses of good quality. And it's good to note that the rubric is open resource with a Creative Commons license. And it is possible to adapt this rubric and use it in your various institutions, and you can make changes to suit your individual needs at institutional level, only that you are required now to acknowledge the authors of the rubric. I'll go straight to talk about the key areas which are covered under the quality assurance rubric, which we have adapted at Kenyatta University. It has 8 main areas, and the first areas is about navigation or orientation of our LMS, that is the Learning Management System. So the issues which we look at this stage is whether students are provided with instructions on how to navigate the system, the LMS. Are they informed about support services available? For example, if they want to log in the system, how are they helped in getting the passwords? In case of problems, do they get support? Do they get information on where they can get support, just in case there are issues with the system? Also, during this orientation, the orientation part of QA, it also looks at the students given information about the structure of the course. We are talking about blended learning. Are the students informed about what is expected? For example, there will be face-to-face sessions as well as online sessions. Are they informed about the hours for online learning and the hours for face-to-face, as well as the content? Also, in terms of the duration of the course, how many credit hours will be earned at the end of the course? So those are some of the issues which we look at the navigation stage. Then we also look at the course content, and the issues which we look at this stage is whether the learning outcomes are clearly stated and in addition to being clearly stated, are they in line with the curriculum, with the market needs? So the QA rubric is helping us, irrespective of the department, irrespective of the course. Do we have properly stated learning outcomes? Is the content promoting interactivity between the students themselves and the students also with the course lecturers? How interactive the module is? And does the content also fit within the hours of study or hours, credit hours required for the course as per the regulations of the Commission for University Education, the one which regulates university teaching in Kenya. The other key area which we also focus as we do our quality assurance is in terms of instructional design. And the rubric here helps us to look at whether the learners, for example, are exposed to a variety of learning activities. Are these learning activities linked to materials which will help learners to participate in learning? Are the learning activities promoting collaboration between learners as they engage in the course? Also, do the learning activities contribute to achievement of the stated learning outcomes for all the programs we have? We have to take all those modules through the QA rubric. The other thing we focus on is the course structure, and within course structure, we look at whether the presentation of the content is logical. Is it sequential? Is it well paced? Is the course structure flexible, allowing for easy updating of content in units, activities, assignments, and learning materials? You know that over the years, maybe 4 years, a cycle of a curriculum, maybe we say it's 4 years, we need to be updating our course. Does the course structure allow for that? Or if the lecturer wants to put some new materials, some new videos and new slides, is the course structure going to allow for that? So we also check for that. The other key element which we also focus on is on student support, like what I said about the orientation. So we look at whether not just the students, also whether the tutors, the lecturers are well trained on how also to log in the system, also to get whatever kind of support they may require to navigate through the system as they teach. And also we also look at the students, do they have enough orientation in case they have problems which they require to be assisted on? Are we providing them with that information? So the other part we also look at is about technology and media, and the issues which the QA rubric is helping us to look at is whether the selected technologies support completion of activities that enhance the learning outcomes. Does the learning management system provide options to download resources for offline consumption? Is the technology we are using adaptable to the various media which students have? Can it be used in a mobile technology or the different platforms which students may want to use to access the LMS? Another area which we also focus on is on the assessment part. Does the course provide opportunities for assessment? For example, we know there are two types of assessment, whether the course provides room for formative as well as summative assessments. Does the course provide opportunities for students to get feedback? And if yes, at what point will students get this feedback? Does the assessment provide opportunities for students also to get to know what is expected, the marking guides, and so on. Then finally, the QA rubric now looks at the quality assurance and evaluation of the digital learning, whether it is embedded in any policy, whether all those things we are saying that we are using to look at our quality assurance, whether we have them in our policy. And for Kenyatta University, it is true that like what Dean Dr. Onyango mentioned, that we have the blended learning policy, which came to effect in 2019, which has documented all these processes and also adoption of the QA rubric.
Dr. Samuel, sorry to interject. I'm just wondering if you might be able to wrap up this session. We're just we're a little bit behind schedule. If you can maybe consider that. Thank you.
Actually, I'm finishing. Thank you, Kak. I was about to mention that we also have a timestamp tool, which is an artificial intelligence tool, which helps us to monitor how much time students and lecturers have spent online. And it helps us in quality assurance, as well as when it comes to payment for lecturers for participation in online learning. Way forward, just like what we have indicated, the university has developed and implemented the blended learning policy that has adopted the QA rubric as a tool for monitoring and evaluation of development of blended learning modules and delivery of programs across all modes of study, and also the Kusoma LMS. That is the end. Maybe questions and comments can come later. Over to you, Kak.
Thank you, Samuel, for that presentation, and something, of course, that you and I have worked on for several years now. So thank you. And I've also mentioned the rubric and some other tool, another tool that we've been using with KU in the chat. I'll invite now Dr. Eric Masika to speak to some of the challenges they faced. As you can imagine, this was a very comprehensive undertaking that digital schools undertaken, not only leading up to or during COVID, but of course before COVID. So Dr. Masiki, I'll offer you the floor to speak to those challenges that you encountered at KU.
Thank you so much, Kak, and thank you, Dean, and the colleagues who spoke earlier, Rod and Samuel. Despite the journey that the Dean and Rhoda spoke about having been fantastic, of course, every journey there'll be two sides of the coin, and I just want to paint a scenario of some of the challenges that we went through as we walked through this. So I have two sets. I'll talk about the challenges, and then later on I'll come to finalize on a small caption of what we're doing with the simulation. So this, I'll kind of put them on a 4-level challenges, and they kind of very rhyme well with global standards. When we set up at Kenyatta University with the many good things that we've achieved, there are quite a number of things that we went through. Number one, we had a bit of negative attitudes, mostly from our colleagues. And this actually really almost derailed the whole program. Because in a sense where we kind of end up with some form of actually some resistance, why should we go to this level? And this became just a bit difficult, but with the time, things start making sense. And every single day we walk out in the university or meet colleagues, they actually now embrace blended learning as the way to go. So every time they are talking about why can't we just continue doing this blended learning where they are comfortable teaching from wherever they are, from their houses, from their offices, every place. So that has kind of come down, and this has been a journey which we'll be speaking to each other about. The second thing is when we move forward, the Commission for University Education really wanted to look at a situation where we are having what we refer to as modular system, which Rhoda referred earlier, someone has referred to interactivity. The modules we had initially were print modules, so it required that we develop materials which are interactive. But this was kind of didn't go very well with the lesson or programs, for example, which are very practical: medicine, engineering, food and nutrition. If you can think about it, how to cook food online. But of course, we get a lot of respite from these online systems. So ideally, the online, which I'll come later to talk about the LABSA system, to indicate that with online, it actually enhances the learning teaching process. So we are there, we're moving forward with all these challenges. The third challenge categorized was major, and this was accessibility for learners, in particular for those of campus. And this is all about connectivity. However, as the university, we went forward, we're committed to making sure that things work out. So we actually have recorded a huge number of students logging in, and this was almost 60–70% of the students. We're still wondering the 30%, but you can see with 70%, we're heading somewhere. We've given them support. The learner support of campus was quite difficult because sometimes you cannot be able to reach them. However, with the time again, we've been able to grow step by step. And this is making a lot of sense when we look back and see what we've achieved. The last challenge, which was huge, they didn't mention our transition from 2005 to the current state. It is a milestone because at that time, we only focused on a very small portion of students, probably about less than 10%. But with the onset of COVID, we were to bring on board the 3 programs, and this required handling students over 65,000 students. Our LMS couldn't sustain this. So many times when students log in, they had concurrent user problems and the system will just die off. And these are some of the troubleshooting things that we went through as we work with the LMS, we work with students and colleagues. So far, I can confirm that we are somewhere where quite a number of our colleagues, quite a number of students actually embrace blended learning than the face-to-face. Thank you, Kirk, and over to you.
Thank you, Eric, for offering and be candid about the challenges you face. I think it's important to reflect on that not every implementation of blended learning is a perfect one. And I think your challenges will certainly resonate with, especially the challenges of onboarding faculty. I think that's a common problem in many contexts. We're going to pivot now to the other portion of our session, which is on inclusivity. And in this part of the session, I'm going to invite back Dr. George Onyango to speak to this particular topic, along with Dr. Elizabeth Monique and also Dr. Lubna Mazare. Dr. Onyango, over to you.
Thank you, Dr. Kirk Perry. In terms of inclusive education, first, let me start from the national perspective. The Ministry of Education lays a lot of importance on inclusive education across all levels of education in the country. This is in keeping with the Sustainable Development Goal number 4, that seeks to ensure inclusive and equitable
Dr. Onyango, I think, has just gone silent. Perhaps there's a connectivity issue. Dr. Monique, perhaps you can continue on with your portion.
Thank you, Kirk. It is true, we seem to have some unstable internet in Kenyatta University today, but let me see whether I can share my screen. And
yeah, take your time. I think perhaps as Dr. Onyango reconnects, then perhaps he can also continue. Ah, there you are. Elizabeth, yes, please continue.
All right, so I would like to look at how we have tried to promote inclusivity in building our content as well as in
Okay, looks like we're having some connectivity issues with some of our panelists, and this sometimes happens. So I'll fill a little bit of airspace and just speak to the inclusivity approach that Kenyatta has taken. They have a Directorate of Disability Services and a disability policy, which Dr. Onyango and Dr. Monique will be speaking to if they're able to return. So they were going to speak to, I think, a collection of enrollments, and I'm just going to show you, I'll share my screen with just a bit of background to what they've been doing at Kenyatta. Okay. So everyone, just bear with me for a moment. So what they're going to...
there has been a power,
power outage.
Power blackout, but we are connecting.
Okay. All right, so I'll just continue to fill the airspace as our panelists rejoin. And so if you go to the KU website, you'll see links to various areas around disability and inclusivity. Here you have a photo of a Disability Awareness Day at KU, and you'll find that on its website. And I think at this point, I'd also like to direct you to the videos. There's a video that was released for this particular session under week 4. And here you'll find video clips from 2 individuals. The first is a student named Elvis Njunguna at Kenyatta University, speaking to his experiences as an individual that is hearing or orally impaired. And there below you see that the Kenyatta team had organized a person to offer him signing in that as this individual presented. And then we're going to be having Dr. Lubna Mazri, who is a faculty member in the Department of Special Needs School of Education, to also speak to her experience as a faculty member that also has a visual impairment. Perhaps I can pause there and see where we're at with our panelists.
Sorry, Kak, there was a power interruption.
No problem. I'm
joined using my mobile phone.
Okay, just fine.
I hope I was able to take you through. Were you able to get me?
Yeah, we heard the first part, Dr. Onyango, and I was just filling the airspace, informing the participants about the video lecture that is up on the course site. So I will stop there and gesture back to you to continue on with your presentations. Dr. Onyango and Dr. Monique.
Okay, over to Dr. Elizabeth Monique to take us through the specifics in terms of promoting inclusive education in Kenyatta University. Dr. Monique.
Thank you, Dean, and sorry about that. Power just went off in Kenyatta University, but I think we are now back. So I will very quickly just look at the inclusivity measures that we have used in building our content as well as in our pedagogy. And the first thing maybe I want to say is that what really has assisted the university in terms of the inclusivity measures is the existence of a Directorate of Disability, whose core mandate is to coordinate capacity building of the entire university community on matters disability. And because of that sensitization, I think even as we enhanced our digital learning, we had that at the back of our mind. Then the other mandate of this directorate is to coordinate and advise the relevant university departments and sections on disability matters. And of course, they liaise with all the departments in Kenyatta University just to ensure that issues to do with inclusivity are embedded in all policies and in all practices. Now, we have a disability policy that the university also uses, and this was very, very important to us, even as we tried to, move the entire university online. And I'm saying the entire university because for a long time, most learners with disability did not erect the, they did not, how do I put this? We have 3 modes of study in Kenyatta University. We have the regular mode of study where students have been coming face-to-face for their programs. Then we have the continuing education programs where students just come during the holidays and then they continue with some 14 hours online. And then we have the blended learning that is offered at the digital school where students do almost all the course online and just come for a few hours face-to-face. And what is important to note is that before COVID-19 came, most of the students with disabilities did not choose to be in the blended learning, and therefore most of them were in either the regular classes that are face-to-face or in the continuing education program, understandably because of the advantages of the face-to-face classes that they enjoyed. But now, after COVID came, it means that everyone had to, move online, and the disability policy really assisted us as we tried to move everyone into the digital space. And this policy is guided by the sensitivity and responsiveness that is required when it comes to societal needs, and of course, the right of every person to be educated. It is also guided by the universal design principles. I think we have all heard of this, where you try to make services and the physical environment usable by as many people as possible, regardless of their age, regardless of their ability and circumstances. And the policy has also guided us in terms of the reasonable adjustments, or what we may call accommodations, that need to be put in place when it comes to digital learning. So what are the inclusivity structures that are in place in Kenyatta University? Now, allow me to say, before I talk about this, that Kenyatta University is home to over 200 students living with disabilities, various types of disabilities, as well as many lecturers who are in the Department of Special Needs in the School of Education. And that means that we really had to think a lot about how to bring everyone on board. And we have certain structures in place. The first one is the physical infrastructure. And we have, I know this is not part of digital learning, but it's also important for you to know where we are coming from in terms of also the physical infrastructure. We have vans that move around the whole university for those with mobility issues. We have ramps for wheelchairs, and for those who are very old, who may not be able to go up the stairs to maybe, up to, let's say, 3rd floor or 4th floor. We also have marked zones for entry into buildings, especially, where the students have to use the wheelchairs and all that. We also have specially designed hostel rooms, bathrooms, washrooms, and breathing rooms for the students as well as the lecturers. When it comes to learning, the types of infrastructure that cater for these students' needs and the lecturers, we have specific assistive facilities and adaptive technologies that are in place. The university also engages sign language interpreters for the students and staff who have hearing impairments in class and also in key areas. For example, when these staff and students have to go to the health unit, or when they have to go to, let's say, for a counseling session, there is always a sign language interpreter who is there to assist them. We also have certain exam accommodations that are even in our blended learning policy, where learners can be allowed to use magnifying lenses. They can be allowed to use brailled exams. They can use large print, and in some cases, they are allowed to use CCTV screen readers. The other one is that we also have the Directorate of Wellness and Rehabilitation Services, and this directorate works hand in hand with the Disability Directorate to ensure the psychological well-being and support of these students. When it comes to our library, we also have CCTV screen readers. We also have softwares that are installed in the library so that the visually impaired can also read. We have, for example, JAWS, we have NVDA, we have Dolphin Pen, and we also have printers that convert text to brailles. And the library also undertakes continuous capacity development on use of e-resources for these students who have various disabilities, and this is done on a need a need or by case basis. When it comes to the LMS, we have also installed what we call the accessibility button, and that means that when you get into the LMS, when you go to the navigation panes, you can add a button called accessibility. And this button allows students and lecturers to do several things. I have just used the sniping tool to place it here. You can see, you can use this to either offer what we call contrast, where we have the A and the black. If you click on that when you're online, it makes all the text and the page go black, meaning that if you have difficulties with vision or you have a problem with lights, then you can make your text and the LMS appear black. You can also contrast it and use whatever color is good for you. And you can increase and decrease the text or the size of the text. You can also convert your text to speech by using this bar. This is called Launch Art Bar, where my cursor is. And this ensures that even for those lecturers and the students who are visually impaired, they can actually have this button or this bar. When you look at where my cursor is, this is where they click on and they are able to read the various modules. Now we also have the NVDA readers installed on the computers, and this is done at the library. So all that the students need to do and the lecturers is to take their gadgets there, take their computers there, and the library installs this for them, and they are able to go on with their studies.
Dr. Elizabeth, just asking if you can be able to wrap it up. We're a little over time.
Yes,
I think you're near the end. You're near the end. Yeah.
On the last slide.
Okay.
But in as much as we have done a lot in terms of inclusivity, we still have some areas that we can improve, and maybe this is the way forward in our case. We are yet to train all the lecturers on what we call the web content accessibility guidelines that are required when you are developing the content, and I'm sure Dr. Mazurui will be speaking to this. And we are also yet to deal with connectivity issues in students who are in far-flung areas from the city. I think that's about all, Kak, and maybe I give it back to you. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Elizabeth. Dr. Mazurui is having some connectivity problems, so this might be a good opportunity to perhaps field some questions that people have been posing. I think the first, most simplistic one, or straightforward rather, is to you, Dr. Monique, and that is on the the disability policy. Is it available online on the KU website? Perhaps anyone from the KU team might have an answer to that question. If the disability policy is available online, that is one question that one of the attendees has posed.
Kak, we have a soft copy of this policy, which we can avail online. There should be no problem.
Okay, very good. So maybe I can share that with the video link, but we can discuss that thereafter. So there's the response to that particular question. Still haven't seen Dr. Masri return yet. So I think one question I'll ask is to the individuals that just spoke to the inclusivity portion of the presentation, is what's the vision of sustainability? Do you, oh, is Dr. Masri with us? Oh, there she is. Okay, excellent. Yes.
Dr. Mazrui is now using my computer, and I think you can see her, so I think she can start engaging.
Excellent. Dr. Masri, a warm welcome to you. I think you have some prepared remarks, and I think the participants and attendees are very curious to hear about your experience as a faculty member who also is managing a visual impairment. Please, the floor is yours.
Everyone. Am I audible?
Loud and clear.
Okay, thank you. First, I want to talk about the fact that I didn't do any PowerPoint presentation to share. It didn't come to me, but I hope my audio presentation will be understandable. When the university moved towards a blended learning system of delivery, a huge part of that process was training for faculty members like myself. And we went through at least 2 training as in schools, in terms of our schools. There was training on module development that a committed team at the digital school took us through. And we learned to develop modules. And then there was a second assessment, or a second training on online assessment. And we were trained on how to develop online assessment for students. In addition to that, I got a lot of support as an individual from the digital school. Particularly, I got a lot of support from both Dr. Monique and Dr. Mutueleli on aspects of training that were not very clear to me as a faculty member with a visual impairment. And often I would call a couple of times, Dr. Monique and I and my reader sat and had a Zoom meeting on various aspects that were unclear to me. And that support was very useful when I was developing the modules for first semester units. In addition to the training, there are aspects particularly related to the LMS that were difficult to navigate. And I'll say more about that when I get to the challenges that I have experienced. And in those situations, I had my reader present, and we got quite a bit of support from the digital school, particularly from Dr. Monique, on how to navigate the LMS to ensure that I'm able to engage the students in the discussion forum and the other aspects of the LMS. In terms of, I'm supposed to talk about challenges, and one of the big challenges that I've experienced, as I suggested before, is with the LMS. It is true that the LMS has features that are useful for persons with visual impairment, particularly persons with low vision. But the LMS is not fully operable with the keyboard. And that causes a lot of problems for me to navigate the LMS with the keyboard, given that I'm not a mouse user. I am blind, so I don't use the mouse at all. So whenever I have to navigate the LMS, many times I need support from my reader so that we can move around certain aspects. When you're operating with a keyboard, you miss certain links, and you are not able to activate even some of the links which are available and can be perceivable using a screen reading program. So the LMS has been a huge challenge, and I think this particular challenge is common to many universities globally. Many times LMSs are developed for mouse users and not very well configured for keyboard users like myself, yeah? And as Dr. Monique mentioned, the web content accessibility guidelines would be useful in helping the university fully work on that aspect. Another challenge that has made it difficult for me to fully work with the blended learning system is resources. Blended learning is particularly useful when it is in a multimedia or interactive format for students to access. And many times when we are developing modules, again, this is not a challenge only related to KU, we are getting problems with the requirement for us to have Creative Commons materials. And even when they are Creative Commons, many times when we're using things like videos, you can get a very useful video that may not be Creative Commons. And when it is Creative Commons, it may not have captioning. So you are excluding learners with hearing impairment, students with hearing impairments who require that captioning. So you end up opting to not use that video in a module. Or it might not have audio description. And in that regard, then you are excluding students with visual impairments who might have to need to get information from that resource. So that has been a huge challenge for us in terms of determining what resources you might be able to use that are both multimedia but inclusive to ensure that all students are able to benefit from that resource. Another challenge that I've faced, the university has worked very hard to ensure that our students get the support they need to enable them to navigate the blended learning system, including the LMS. But many times students' ICT skills are low, yeah? Either because they are still not as motivated as they should be to take up a blended learning system, or maybe they just need appropriate training and they are not able to get enough of that, yeah? So many times, my experience has been that when students lack either computer skills or internet browsing skills, they are not able to learn using blended learning adequately. They may not be able to join online classes. Many times they are not able to read the materials on the modules because of their limited skills. Some are even not able to participate in the discussion forums that are extremely useful in helping them to understand the materials. And I had a situation where students were not able to even do the online assessment again because of the ICT skills. So that has been a huge challenge. And as a lecturer, you feel like you're not enabling students to learn as much as they should be able to learn. But when their ICT skills are low, then it becomes difficult. Finally, time has been a huge challenge for me. As many faculty members across the world, we are juggling very many responsibilities. And when you have a visual impairment that makes access to information difficult, then everything is slower. So getting through material, even if it's in soft or digital form, takes longer to read through material, prepare for classes and all that. So sometimes time has been a challenge that has made it difficult for me to give the best I can give to the university, but also to the students I serve. I think that's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Dr. Masri, thank you very much for sharing your experiences and I think illuminating some issues that aren't necessarily top of mind for those people that don't live with a visual impairment. And I think it's also a credit to Kenyatta University and the digital school for providing these kinds of resources to enable an inclusive environment within the university, both for students and for faculty alike. There's a lot of different questions that were posed, but we did go over time. So I'm going to be respectful of people's schedules. And we're going to wrap up the session now, and just wanted to reiterate a few points. One is that the video will be available and it'll be sent to all of you by email, along with a few other postings. Those requests for the the disability policy, we'll certainly include a link to that once it's confirmed. And then any other updates will be forthcoming in an email. So I'm just going to wrap up here, come back to my PowerPoint slide. And just, you'll see here my shared screen, and to invite you to go to the Digital Literacy Lab for Educators course. And you'll see in this week's videos, this particular video that features both the student, Mr. Elvis, and of course, Dr. Masri speaking to their experiences, and other information as well for week 4. So we're just moving to the end. So I just wanted to encourage everyone that has yet to enroll, or perhaps you have within your networks, enrollment is still open for the course, and it does continue for a few more weeks. And I'd inserted that link in the chat. So I will leave this open a bit longer for people perhaps to see those links and to continue on in their learning journey in the Digital Literacy Lab for Educators course. On that note, I just want to offer a word of thanks to all of the participants that came today, the attendees, and of course to our panelists, to Dr. George Onyango, to Dr. Monique, to Dr. Samuel Mutwileli, to Dr. Eric Masika, to Dr. Rhoda Gitonga, to Dr. Lubna Masri, and of course also to thank Dr. Emma Ponsford, who is helping us in the background with the question and answers, and who is also the architect of our Digital Literacy Lab for Educators course. On that note, I'll wish you all a pleasant day wherever you are in the world, and to thank you again for participating in today's webinar. We'll see you back online on the Digital Literacy Lab for Educators course. Stay well, everyone, and we'll see you again online. Bye-bye.